Hello, and welcome to Dungeons and Devs, the show where a bunch of game developers get together in different groups every week. We talk about some game dev related stuff, and then we just play a game of Dungeons and Dragons for a few hours. It's a fun time. I'm Xavier. I'm the dungeon master, the host, the source of lots of really goofy voices for this weird thing that I'm doing. And today I've got a really great group. Let's just start with some introductions, I think. Let's just go alphabetically. Harrison, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about you and how you got in the game industry and what you do.
Sure. My name's Harrison Pink. I've been in the games industry for about a decade. I'm a senior designer on the Diablo team at Blizzard Entertainment. Before that, I worked on a bunch of stuff. I worked on Mafia 3. I worked at Telltale Games, where I worked on Walking Dead Season 1 and 2. I was the co-creator of Tales from the Borderlands. Before that, I did a bunch of like mini advert gamey, startup-y stuff in Atlanta. So I've been around.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. This is your first time on the show, and it's great to have you here.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jess, tell us a little about yourself, how you got in the game industry, what you do, that type of thing.
Hi, I'm Jess. I've been working in games for about 8 years. I'm a game artist. I started out at Jagex in Cambridge in the UK, working on various projects that weren't RuneScape. And as of the last 2 or so years, I've been at Wonderstruck in Guildford, working on a game called Boundless.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kelly, tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
I was originally from Singapore, and I came here to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and then immediately after I got hired by an educational game studio, and I do concept art and texture painting, and I pretty much do everything that's 2D in the studio.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here again. This is your second time on, right? Along with Jess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's great to have you guys back. And last but not least, Matt, tell us a little about you, what you do, and how you got in the game industry.
Well, hello again. I'm Matt. I'm an environment artist in games, and not quite as long a history as some of these folk, but about 5 years now I've been bouncing around and doing various game-related stuff. I do VR and AR now. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, you just moved about 6 months ago from Michigan, right?
Yep. Yeah, I live in LA now, right in the hotbed of the VR buzzword world.
Well, it is definitely a world of buzzwords, that's for damn sure. But enough about us, enough about our boring lives and stuff. Let's talk about some game dev related stuff. And I like to start these shows off with some sort of discussion topic, just to kind of set the mood and stuff, so that people can kind of get into things, share their experiences. So this is a question I've been thinking about for a while now, actually, since I got the Okami HD version for PS4 just a few days ago. I picked it up and I was playing through it, and I realized that this game really, really holds up very well. Now, granted, they did do some work to bump up things like texture resolution, or the resolution that is rendering on screen. It's a little easier to render things very clearly at a large resolution. But it got me thinking about other games out there that also hold up well for a long time. So what are some games that you guys think hold up very well, either just visually or in other ways, gameplay wise, in a way that makes you think, even however long after it's been released, 10 years after it's released, this game still feels kind of fresh and just right. What are some games that stick out to you guys as being ones that still hold up after years and years of having played them or coming back to them after many years?
I can start off if no one has something ready to go.
Yeah, please.
I think a good one for me, I keep coming back to every once in a while. I don't know if I had the same experience with it as a lot of people did when I first played it, but it's more meaningful to me now as like an artist, I guess. Spyro, the original. That game has some of the strongest art direction I think I can think of for a game that is nearly 20 years old at this point. maybe it's a little more technical, but I mean, hey, this is a game art podcast, right? So
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can go back to that, and I see tricks that I don't even properly have a handle on, just kind of effortlessly executed. Like color composition, just everything in that game, it just perfectly works, and it's really something. It, besides the fact it's a lot of fun to play still. So that one I feel like I can always go back to and learn something from. So that's yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think that's one of the reasons that I was so excited to get started in Insomniac a couple of years ago is because, they have this history of making games like Spyro and Ratchet and Clank. I got to do a little bit of work on Ratchet and Clank, and it was super exciting. And I think that it's, some of that work is going to hold up over the years just because it has such a strong style to it. What about things like gameplay mechanics? Are there gameplay mechanics in some older games that you guys feel should be brought back or would still hold up that come from older games?
That's a good question. I think that old school RPGs like Morrowind had a system where they wouldn't, well, not a system, but just sort of like the gameplay loop was that of letting the player just explore and not putting like a pin on a map. Later games like Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff just kind of they go to this exact location and they sort of just tell you where to go and you kind of stay on the path. But I remember playing Morrowind and it just like instructions are like go down the east path towards such and such town and go talk to this guy in this inn named such and such and he'll give you this item and then go to this other place, and you had to just sort of navigate as if it was a real place by like reading signs and looking at landmarks and points of interest and talking to people. And I know that's not for everybody, but for a game that is like the core fantasy is like being in this big world, and the kind of players that like that kind of game, like Dungeons and Dragons style sort of fantasy people who want to get like lost in this big world, it perfectly fit that fantasy for me. Where these days I feel like a lot of games they sort of cut that out, and understandably so, because they want to make it more accessible to everybody. And a lot of people don't want to just wander and not know what they're supposed to do or forget that they have to read their quest log or their journal or whatever. But I definitely enjoy the finding or the discovery part of gameplay. So I almost want to see some sort of optional mode to like take that stuff away. And the problem is you can't just flip those icons on and off. Like you really need to design the game to allow for that, because when you can just put a pin on a map, you don't need to do a lot of the like visual signposting. You don't need to put like spires in the distance that you're going towards, or like visual like reference points and things like that you have to populate the world with if you don't just put a pin on a map. And so you can't just say, well, we'll just flip those off and let people just explore. You have to make sure you have signposts and characters that will like visually point at stuff, or have lines, written lines that will say, go down this path and such and such. And so it's not just as easy as just adding a mode, like a difficult mode, but I definitely miss that kind of gameplay a lot.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed. World of Warcraft has sort of changed in that respect over time, where back when it first came out, quest givers would tell you where to go down this road and go over here and speak to that guy, because you didn't know otherwise where you were going until you got right next to them and you can see them on the minimap. But now you talk to a quest giver and they're like, go and do this thing, and they don't say anything about where that thing necessarily is happening or where the person is that you need to speak to, because it just pops up on your map like outlined right there. And that's convenient because you just go straight there. But sometimes, like, if the minimap thing doesn't come up, or if they're in a really unexpected place and you're not looking at the map properly, you're like, where am I supposed to go? And you speak to the quest giver and they're like, oh. So that's something that I've noticed has changed about it over time. And I kind of miss the old sort of having to read the quest and go where the quest says.
I think that's an interesting trend in game design, where things have become certainly more digestible, but at the same time, I don't know. At least to me, it feels a little less immersive, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing Thief 2 when I was, maybe 13 or 14 or something, and I thought it was awesome because, I still think it's awesome, but I thought it was awesome because it gave you maybe like a very rough sketch of a map of whatever building you were supposed to be exploring, but it never had all the details filled in, and you had to you had to fill it in as you went along, and it had the option of like actually drawing on the map and saying, "Oh, there's a thing here," and there were so many ways to get through all these different environments, and it was specifically designed so that you never knew exactly what was going on until you just poked your head around that corner and actually went and physically looked for what you were trying to look for. That's something that newer games, with all the little quest markers and stuff. I think you're right, Harrison, that you can't just turn those things off because things are designed around those little quest markers now. It's a very different paradigm of design, I think, right?
I noticed in like when Skyward Sword came out, when the Zelda Skyward Sword game came out, which had some incredibly gorgeous art and really, really ingenious like dungeon theming. Like a lot of the dungeons were some of the best themed dungeons I've ever seen. But I feel like they gave you the dowsing mechanic where you'd like hold the sword and it would give you like a hot and cold direction to go in. And that was the first game where like the world itself felt really empty because they didn't bother to like fill it with interesting things to look at as you walk around, because you just have the sword in your face the whole time and like the dowsing mechanic because it was like a Wii motion control thing. So they didn't put like visual signposting. They didn't really put a lot of like, at least that's how I remember it. It just felt much more like flat and fake. They didn't put a lot of the love and the craft in the world that like Breath of the Wild had, where you just come across interesting things that might be like, hey, listen, my buddy got lost in that crazy town filled with ghosts over there, and don't go in there. It's filled with ghosts, and that sort of like incidental storytelling that they just didn't bother to do, because who cares when you just know exactly which way to go because you've got the like beam of light pointing in the direction you're supposed to go. And it really was a disappointing sort of like quote unquote feature that they added, where it was made the game more accessible for sure. So it's definitely could just be me a case of me being like a grumpy old man, but for younger kids that makes a lot of sense. So I think that it's important to have options like that, but you should definitely start the game like assuming you're not going to have that design, and then later you can layer that sort of like guided mode in over it.
Yeah, I not being a game designer, just being an artist, I think the first thing that occurs to me is that designing in that way, where you're designing the world as if it's a real place with actual signposts and people who will point out objects in the distance, seems like it would be not just a different way of designing, but also a lot more labor intensive. Would you say that coming from more of a design based background, you find that to be true?
It's definitely more intensive, but it's just, I guess you have to decide on what kind of game you're making. Like if that's a core principle of your game, if export isn't a core loop and it's like, killing monsters and grinding and getting XP and like the D&D style, where like the exploration is for some people, but for some people really the combat's what matters, or the story or whatever like that. You kind of have to figure out like where are you going to spend your dollar, because you only get $1 to spend, So it just comes down to what kind of game you want to make, and old school or older RPGs like 3D RPGs like Morrowind or whatever were about that. And I think those games have become less about that and more about the story or about the loot or about the combat itself. So, it's just one of those things where this sort of like aesthetic evolves, like the game, what kind of game it is evolves. Like no one plays very many turn-based RPGs anymore. Like XCOM is kind of one of the only ones. There's a couple of small ones out there, but like or RTSs, like Warcraft or Command and Conquer. Like that style of game has sort of gone away and been replaced with MOBAs and that kind of thing. So like the flavor, like the taste of gamers is sort of changes over time, I think. And so maybe that's just one of those things like, well, maybe there's still people who really appreciate it, but we're in the minority now, and that's not really what sells boxes,
Yeah, it's an interesting point. What do the rest of you guys think about that? I mean, are there games that stick out to you as being, examples of these different types of, like signposting type of games?
I mean, obviously, like most of the rest of us being artists, we don't have as many of the tools to like point out these or see these sort of design choices maybe as early, but I don't know. There definitely seems to be a trend, like especially in the larger games you're saying, to move away from that sort of design. So I think it's sort of a rare breed, just based on a lot of like market force type stuff, It's like Ubisoft doesn't make games like that anymore, even though they kind of used to be pretty large on making that sort of open freeform design, like signposted landmark type thing, and now it's all kind of this is a different breed. I don't want to make any judgments here that don't make sense, but it's a very different sort of game in a lot of ways. So
I mean, you guys are all artists. Like you know better than anybody. Like you have to make a ton of content for that kind of game, right? Like to explore space, you need to have something to find, and that means that you have to have a big open empty space and stuff to find in the cave when you get there. Otherwise, you stop exploring. So, you know, as generators of art, I know that you guys have probably felt the pinch of like, I have to fill this incredibly large space with interesting things everywhere you look, and that's expensive and time consuming and difficult. So I get it.
This is an aside, but like talking about that, we actually have an opposite problem where we have too much space that we built and no content and there are no quests. It's just this empty giant space. And it's like, why?
It's hard. Yeah, like Mafia 3 had the same problem where we actually had to shrink the city down because it was like, it's fun to drive around kind of, but eventually there's nothing to do. So like you burn out of that really quickly. So I totally feel that same problem.
And also for us, like a lot of our audience is going to be a lot younger. So I don't want to say hand holding, but like, I guess there's two ends of the spectrum of people who interact with our games, because we have like really like middle schoolers, and then we have their teachers, which is a whole other like ballpark, because like, I think there was one incident where one of the teachers was really trying to like play the game and figure it out before she introduced it to her class, obviously, because she wanted to be familiar with it. But I think she asked like, what are these floating leaves above my head? Can I catch them? And they were like UI stuff. And like, you know, you like, there's so little context for them. So actually I think like the kids will probably learn faster because they're already familiar with this sort of thing, since most kids grow up with it now. But yeah, I guess like for us, it's, by virtue of our audience, it's going to be a very, very different approach than most games, I think. I'm not super involved with that side though, so I might just be rambling. But yeah.
No, I think that's fair though. You know, because you're coming at things from the perspective of somebody who's working on this game, and you know, if it's a thing that you see, I mean, there's got to be some legitimacy to it, at least in that it's a thing that people are seeing, even if you're each approaching it from different angles. I think. I think this has been like a really interesting topic to kind of dig into, and you know, game design is something that I always find really interesting. So it's great talking to people like Harrison, and you know, getting opinions from all these different people that we have here today. I think we've kind of rambled enough. Let's do something really nerdy, even nerdier than talking about things like game design. Let's play a game. Let's play some D&D. Harrison, tell us a little about the character that you're playing. You know, their name, what their class is, a little about them.
Sure. I'm playing a half-elf bard named Tiesto Caliente. He has a backstory that he would be reticent to share with anybody, and we can get into that as we play. But yeah, so I will be playing Tiesto Caliente today.
All righty. Awesome. Jess, what about you? Tell us a little about the character you're playing and what he, she, it, they do.
So I'm playing, again, my half-orc paladin, Durka Brightspear. In the last game, she killed Santa Claus. That was kind of an important achievement in her life. Yeah, it was a good time. Like a lot of half-orcs, she hasn't really stuck around with her clan. You know, always tensions with people when you're a half-breed like that. And she found sort of purpose in her life from being a paladin and serving, I think it was Ilmater. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Kelly, what about you? What kind of character are you playing?
I'm playing Villa, who's a half-elf ranger, and she's just super suspicious and doesn't socialize easily, and very defensive of being a half-elf, especially when it comes to like other elves. So it's just like, yeah, clash.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Matt, tell us a little about your character. I'm a big fan of this guy.
I'm glad someone is. I'm taking up the mantle again of David Duchovny, my dwarven cleric. He's a fellow of a good sense of justice, but he's always the one to look on the wrong and the bad side or the negative of any situation.
All right.
Right.
It'd be a bit of a pain.
So, with all that said, let's get into the game. Let's get into this whole little adventure that we're on. And speaking of adventures, the Adventurers Guild. Now, the Adventurers Guild it's a pretty large guild. It's very well known across the world, really. It's a very large, very rich guild. Lots of rich patrons supply it with, well, supplies and money. And it's because adventuring is seen as sort of a legitimate profession, more or less. Now, this is not to say that adventurers are welcome everywhere, because they are essentially harbingers of doom no matter where they are. But, adventuring is something that people do. And you guys, being fairly low-level members of the Adventurers Guild, you're only level 5. You sometimes get stuck with the shit jobs. It's just the way things are. Those level 20 guys up there who are saving the world and stuff, defeating dragons and wishing planes of existence into or out of existence. I mean, they're the big movers and shakers, but you guys, it's not always a good time for a low-level member of the Adventurers Guild. But, they give you a place to eat, place to sleep, so... can you complain, really? Now, today is no different. Today, the guildmaster, a man named Bailey, very large, gruff man, has looked at his list of people who are actually at the Adventurers Guild Hall. He's picked the 4 of you randomly off his list, mainly by just closing his eyes and pointing at his clipboard. And he's come up to all of you as he's got you gathered in the common room of the Adventurers Guild. And he tells you about a job which has come up. A note was sent to him by messenger last night from one of the... an older man in the one of the noble families here in the coastal city of Villamire. And apparently this old gentleman is the weather here in this coastal town is just not to his liking. He's getting old, and in his later years the cold is not doing him well, so he wants to move to warmer climes. So you guys, being low-level members of the Adventurers Guild, taking shitty jobs, today have to go and move some fucking boxes.
Oh my god.
So,
really?
Delightful.
As you walk through the streets of Villamire, the wind is blowing. It's a bright, sunny fall day. There are whirlwinds of leaves through the streets, and people are engaging in the usual hustle and bustle as you walk past market stalls and such. And you finally make your way to a large 3-story building that it's a tenement building, but it looks like it's been converted to just be one person's house. Very clearly, one of the richer people in town owns this place, and you can see that there are a few people moving in and out that are carrying small crates and boxes, but they're not really moving much aside from just the larger pieces of furniture. Really, as these people walk past, you can see that the crates are just full of things like dishes and cups. But you were given to understand that there would be larger boxes and crates and such. And you see that there is a foreman who is arranging all these people, getting, he's coordinating everything and giving orders to people moving these boxes. And as you approach, he looks at you, looks at his people, and says, "Well, they're here. It's time for us to leave. We got everything else packed up. Now it's you guys. So peace." And he and his small troop of people pack up, get onto their wagon, and start moving their pieces of furniture and other things out towards one of the gates. One of the city gates going out of town. The front door, a very large double door is left open, and it seems pretty quiet on the inside. What would you like to do?
Well, this is a shit detail.
Yeah, moving boxes. That's great, like heroic adventure stuff.
I actually run after the cart, all the workers,
Mhm.
and I sort of like trying to like flag the foreman down and try and like stop him from leaving. And I'm like, hey chief, hey, before you go, and I'm trying to like stop him from
so
leaving.
as you're kind of jogging up beside this cart, he doesn't stop the cart, but he kind of like he turns to his side and leans over and he's like, what do you want?
Say, listen. I need you to. You got all these brawny, strong men here, and you know it seems crazy to me that you would just ask us to do all the rest of this job. Why don't we? I think we can find a way to do this together. Right? You know,
Absolutely
all these hands
not.
We can make light work of this. There's no reason for you to leave now.
There
Listen,
are several reasons in that house for me to leave right now. I got all my stuff out of there, all the stuff that I was paid to get out of there. You guys have to take care of the rest. It ain't on me.
What reasons are those? I'm
yeah.
concerned
What,
now.
can you elaborate? I'm trying to like. I'm like walking like.
No, I
keep walking,
cannot
keep up with the
elaborate.
cart.
And he actually he kind of whips the horses a little to get him to jog a little faster.
Okay.
Wow, what a dick.
I
Suspicious.
I let him go. I'm like, okay. And I turned to the rest of the party. I'm like, that seems a little suspicious to me. I don't know about you guys.
That is a bit ominous.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess we have no choice but to do this without the brawny man.
Well, hey, I've got brawn enough for at
That's
least two
true.
men.
fair. All right. I elect to walk towards the entrance of the house.
All right. So what are the rest of you guys doing? Are you gonna just follow him?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll pick up like the most delicate box I could find, kind of begrudgingly, and follow them.
Are you bringing a box back inside? Hang on, that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, my bad.
So I'm on the stoop. I'm like looking into like the darkness. I want
Yep.
to see what I can see before I go in.
Yeah. So as you look in, it seems initially dark, but then you realize it's just a little darker than outside, so it's hard to see in from the bright sunny exterior. But as you sort of poke your head in and take a look around, there is light coming in through the windows, and you see there down the hall, which is on the other side of this doorway. It's a pretty long hall that goes all the way back to the rear of the building. And there are doorways on either side, but there are 3 doorways on each side. And then at the very end of the hallway, there is a window that looks out onto the alley behind this large tenement building. On the right side of the hallway, towards the end, there is a staircase going up to the second floor. And to the right, there is what looks like sort of almost like a tea room or something like that. And then off to the left, there's a closed door.
Durka, why don't you just head on in there? I'll back you up.
Okay. It's just a house, right? What's there to be scared of?
Yeah, it's just a house.
Let's start with the nearest door.
Yeah, I'll go with her. I feel safer around her.
The open door or the closed door?
Closed door. More exciting.
All right. So you walk up to the door, and it opens very easily. It's a
Good.
very well constructed door, and as you enter, you can see that this place, even without any sort of furniture in it, and being kind of empty, it's still a very nice sort of abode. You can see that there is very nice wallpaper on the walls. There's wood paneling along the lower half of the walls, and it's very warm and welcoming. Looking into this room, it looks like it's almost completely empty. There's a fireplace at the far end. There's a door to your right. There is a wall to your left. There are windows looking out onto the street, and there is a doorway in the right hand side of this room. Now, as you start walking in, the floor creaks a little bit, and then you hear something coming from upstairs up the staircase down at the end of the hall, just like a.
That was a
What?
sound.
That's quite a sound. Okay. So there's nothing in this quite nice room.
Yeah, it looks like it's all been cleared out. There's a chandelier hanging from the ceiling pretty high up, but none of the candles are lit, and
Do you
that's
think
about
he
it.
wants- Do you think he wants us to move that?
Not
It's
moving
kind
it.
of delicate. Nah. Okay.
I'm not moving a chandelier. That's staying with the house.
Agreed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Looks like a nice chandelier. This is a nice house, honestly. Weird that he wants to move.
So
But
as you guys are standing here talking, looking around a little bit, you hear some footsteps coming from upstairs towards the stairway at the end of the long entrance hall. And the those of you who are still in the hallway see the silhouette of a man approaching. He's wearing sort of long robes, and it's difficult to make out since it's in the distance. But he's like, "Hello, hello, is someone there?"
I say, hey, Durka, I think this guy wants to talk to you.
to
From
me,
where I'm standing in the hallway, yeah.
Pass the
I'm
buck.
gonna come back out to the hallway. You sure you want to get the probably least smartest person on the team to do all the talking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna greet the presumably old man by the sounds of it. I assume you're the owner here?
Oh, yes. Oh, are you the folk from the Adventurers Guild? Oh, that's
That we are.
wonderful. And he sort of hobbles his way down the stairs slowly, kind of moving back and forth. And you can see now that he's coming down, he's wearing like a long smoking jacket or something tied around his waist, and he's got a pretty long beard, comes to mid-chest. It's just bright white. He's completely bald and very wrinkly otherwise. He's got these big bushy eyebrows coming off, and they actually go beyond the sides of his head, sort of at weird poofy angles. And he's like, "Oh, wonderful! It's so good of you to come. Those damned movers, they refuse to move any of my collections. God-damned superstitious morons. There's nothing going to happen to them."
Yeah, what's the collection all about?
My
I sort of
collection.
yell from way back where I'm.
Oh, yes.
Like peeking into the room.
As he hobbles his way forward, he extends a hand and he's like, "Oh yes, my collections are wonderful. Please, I'm Sylvian Vexler. You probably know my nephew. He's one of those shitty nobles here." Yes, and he sort of like starts shaking all your hands. He's like, "Very nice to meet all of you. Yes, you see, I'm a natural philosopher, and those stupid, uneducated dolts don't realize that nothing up there can hurt them. They're just afraid of magic or some shit. I don't know."
Well, I assure you, sir, we are not afraid of magic.
Wonderful. So you'll help me move my boxes then?
I step forward. I sort of just like push past everybody, and I grab Sylvian by the hand, and I say, "Sylvian, I'm very curious. Tiesto Caliente, by the way. Nice to meet you."
Oh, very nice to meet you,
yes,
Mr.
so-
Calabria.
Yes, perfect. So there's a little matter of the payments. Now I know you've probably had a discussion, and they've probably sort of settled on some sort of payment. But what they probably didn't tell you is that there's a 50% upfront cost. That it would be really nice to let's just get that out of the way right now. And so we can sort of move that collection for you and we'll take great care of it. But it's very important that we sort of settle this immediately.
Oh my goodness, I thought I paid that yesterday. I'll go get my coin purse. One moment. And he starts hobbling back towards the stairs.
How does the paladin feel about this?
I sort of like shoot a gaze over my shoulder at Vela as like a shut up.
I don't remember discussing that with the guildmaster. I thought he said he would be handling all the money bits. Like,
I talked to him. We had a discussion out. Him and I we hashed it out ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense, I guess.
Tiesto,
Here,
I need you to do a deception check.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and
I am proficient in that.
You are.
Durka, do an insight check.
Okay.
I rolled a 9 plus 9, so 18.
I got 19 plus 1, so I got 20.
Oh, shit.
I think you might not be telling the truth there. Actually.
Listen, we can
Because,
talk about
you know,
this. We can talk about this once we give the gold.
I've done
And
a
we
lot of
split up the
jobs like
gold.
this for the Adventurers Guild, and the guildmaster always handles the money part, and we pick up at the end, sure, but we don't take money up front.
Is Sylvian like within earshot right now, or is he kind of like hobbled off to get his converse?
He is continuing to hobble off towards
Okay.
the stairs. It doesn't
So
seem
I-
like he is aware of anything
All
that's
right,
around
so
him.
yeah, I turn around and I'm like, okay, listen, yeah, obviously I'm totally lying. Come on, do you want to make extra gold now, or we're moving boxes? This is not exactly a glamorous job.
We're not swindling this old guy out of his gold. Come on, that's not fair.
I'm leaving this one up to a vote.
A vote.
I feel like David's got my back.
I
You
don't
can't
know
put
about
doing
that,
the right
DJ
thing
Tiesto.
down to some kind of democracy.
As
I'm
shitty as
with
this
her.
detail is,
Come on.
Okay, well then I'm not going to tell him. It's up to you guys. If you want to go and tell him, then that's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna go run after him. Sort of like, I don't want to like hurt him by. He seems kind of frail, so I'm not gonna like grab him by the shoulder, but just sort of like touch him on the shoulder to get his attention.
So as you run up to him and tap him on the shoulder a little bit, he as he's very slowly working his way up the stairs, it's almost as if he got hit by a baseball or something that was coming at him at 60 miles an hour, and he just like trips on the stairs and is like, "Oh my, I'm being attacked! My God! Oh no! I knew this would happen. I have so many enemies. Oh, let it be quick! Oh,
This is off to a
merciful
great start.
gods! Oh!"
I'm like, sir, Mr. Vexter, I was just trying to get your attention. I'm gonna like, if he's tripped over, I'm gonna try and help him to his feet. I'm being a good conscientious paladin here.
Yeah, you do manage to sort of roll him over and help him to his feet, and he's like, "Oh, thank you. I forgot you were there. Oh, I was going to get my collection ready and for moving. I'm moving tomorrow. Well, oh, I wonder when those movers are going to get here. Who are you again?
We are the movers from the Adventurers Guild. Remember?
Wonderful. My name is Sylvian Vexler.
Oh boy.
I'm a natural
All right.
Uh,
philosopher.
It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Vexler. So I'm gonna just sort of start talking more slowly and a little bit more loudly than previously, just to make sure that he might remember this time. Would you mind showing us to your collections, sir?
Oh, I would love to show you my collections. They're wonderful. Please, we're just gonna go upstairs.
Okay,
All
we'll
right.
follow you.
I'm
slowly
already
hobbles upstairs.
like-
Yeah.
chop chop.
Guess we forgot about the money thing already.
He hobbles up the stairs incredibly slowly. You can see that he's got one hand on the small of his back. He's very clearly just like an old, sore, frail man, and he's pulling himself up by just using the banister almost like a
I'm
ladder.
already at the top of the stairs.
I'm gonna offer him my arm to lean on.
Oh, thank you. You're a lovely young. Oh, you're a wonderful lady.
I just pull out my loot and I'm just like really slowly going up the stairs, just blinking at it. And I lean over to David and I'm like, David, we could have made so much money. Why don't, man, really, man, you really blew it on that one. I'm just trying to entertain myself as we go up these stairs extremely slowly.
Trying to make yourself feel better.
Oh, I feel great. I feel great
Tiniest
already.
Violin.
I'm just angrily stomping up the stairs, muttering, and it's a terrible job. Torn between how impatient I am and how annoyed I am.
So as you guys finally make your way to the top of the stairs with Mr. Vexler, he stops and catches his breath, and he's like, "Oh my! Oh, you must be the movers from the guild. Oh, wonderful! I'm Sylvian Vexler. Let me show you to my collections. Here, come with me." And he starts walking down the hallway, and this hallway actually goes the length of the building, just like the one below. On either side, there are actually open doorways here. They don't have any doors in them, and peeking through some of the doorways, you can actually see that there are large rooms that are arranged on either side of this hallway that are all connected, and each one is filled with just all kinds of shit. Collections of small pickled animals in jars. There's one room or one corner that looks like it's entirely devoted to different types of small vials, each one with a different color, and some of them look like they're swirling or lighting up. There is one room with a central area, sort of a dais that's raised. And on this raised dais, there's a stand. And on the stand, there's a crystal ball that's just, it looks like it's rotating on its own. The inside is this sort of smoky gray mass. And there are empty crates that are sort of stacked in corners with straw that's used to pack things in them, very clearly awaiting some sort of things to be packed inside of them. They're large crates. It'd take at least 2 people to lift one of these crates and take it downstairs. They come up to like waist height on Durka, and it's going to be quite a job to get these crates downstairs after they're filled up. But you can see that things are set up there in these rooms to at least get started with moving, even though none of the packing is done.
So where's your collection, sir?
Oh, my collection. Come with me. I want to show you my finest pieces. Over here.
And he leads you through one of the doorways, and he starts gesturing to all sorts of accoutrements and various implements of, it looks like surgery and magic. And there is a telescope in one corner and a microscope in the other.
He's like, this one I'm especially proud of. Look in this mirror. Come, look. Oh, I love this mirror so much.
And he goes and he stands in front of the mirror, and it actually doesn't show a reflection of any of the people in the room, including Sylvian. Instead, it just shows the room as if it's completely empty. And looking in the mirror, you can see there are people moving around in the background that are kind of a little bit shadowy. It's almost like it's not picking up anything except the building and some maybe people in another location or a different time or something. He's like,
oh, I love this. It's faded over time, but such happy memories are stored in there. Now, you are the movers, right? Please help me pack all these things up. I'm really, really tired of all this cold salt air that blows in all the time. What can you do to help me?
So you said there's a lot of empty boxes and all those glass vials and stuff. Like we have at least something to put things in, right?
Yeah, it looks like there are supplies to move things, but the people from the moving company didn't want to be involved with any of the actual moving itself.
Classic movers, guys. I asked Sylvian, so of all of these things, which do you want us to start with? What is the most important thing here for you that we take care of? What would you, I guess, let me put it another way. What's the most valuable thing here?
Oh, value. I'd have to think. Oh, come to this room.
And he leads you to one of the rooms at the end of the hall. And this one actually has a small, thin spiral staircase going up through the ceiling up to the 3rd floor. And he hobbles over to it.
Oh, these stairs. I thought it was a good idea when I was a young man, but now, I'm not convinced. The good stuff is up there.
Please don't go up the stairs. Please do not go up the stairs. We'll take care of it. And I look back to the group and I sort of point up the stairs.
I'll sigh deeply and start my way up the stairs. Heavy thud on each step. Just making a little more than I need to.
So as you work your way up this very narrow spiral staircase, it goes up through a hole in the ceiling, and it's very dark up here. It doesn't appear that there are any windows. And as you get up into this level, it's very hard to see in here. There are blackout curtains on all the windows, and it seems like it's one large room from what you can see. Along all sides of the room, there are cages, for lack of a better word. They're almost arranged like stables, except they have barred doors across the front. There's this sort of musty scent that hits your nose, and you start hearing sort of like shuffling and breathing. And looking around, you realize that this actually does appear to be some sort of stable or something.
Okay, I'm gonna go over to one of the cages and take a look inside.
All right. So as you walk over to this cage, you take a look inside, and there is a very large padlock on the cage door that's at least the size of a fist. And looking in, it's kind of tough to see anything in there because it's very dark. But then as you look for a little longer, you see a shape or multiple shapes, or maybe it's just one shape. There's something moving at the back of this cage. And then you hear this, and a shape launches towards you and slams against the cage door. And the brief glance that you get as it kind of bounces off and almost runs along back into the dark, you get the impression that it's something vaguely cat-like, almost like a big cat, or maybe a jaguar or a lion, something like that. But it's tough to get a bead on what exactly it is.
I think it likes you.
I like cats. Cats generally like me too, so that's good, I guess.
I think you're going to be good friends.
Yeah. Moving them might be kind of tricky. Cats don't really like traveling.
Can I do a perception check?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right.
Just to kind of look around in this big room?
Just to...
Or look at the specific thing?
Yeah, to try and determine what it is. If it's
sure.
Yeah. I got 14.
It's a little bit difficult at first to see exactly what's going on there, but then as it stops moving and seems to hold very still at the back of the cage, you're able to kind of get a bead on it, and it does indeed look like a very large cat. It's hard for your eyes to focus on it because it keeps sort of shifting weirdly, but the longer you look at it, the more you can see that it's shaped like a very large jaguar with more limbs than it should have. It's got at least 6 legs and then something coming off of its back. And it almost seems like there's tentacles or something coming off its back.
I sort of yell down the staircase, and I'm like, "Hey, Sylvan, like, what are these? What have you been doing up here? It's like these animals in cages, and this is the valuables you want us to move?" And I'm like really like disappointed sounding. So I'm just yelling down the staircase at Sylvan, who I'm assuming is still at the bottom of the staircase.
Oh, yes. Oh, those are the good things. Yes, I also have some. If you look around, there's a safe at the rear of the room, right near to the large doors with the crane.
I make a beeline towards that.
All right, so as you approach the back of this large room, you can see that off to the left-hand side, there are actually 2 double doors that open up, and it looks like there is like a crane and winch system above that looks like it's there for getting heavy loads up there. And then immediately to the right, there is a safe that's it's big. It's a good 6 feet tall, and it has a big tumbler in the front and a huge lever to open it up.
And I yell, do you want us to move the whole safe or just what's in the safe?
Pocketful by pocketful.
I'm just asking. I want to make sure, because if you don't have to move a giant iron safe, that would be great. So do you want us to just move what's inside the safe or actually move the safe? Because that's going to be a whole extra thing.
Well, the safe is pretty important. It keeps things safe.
Good point.
They do that.
Where do we want to start, gang? We have a monster in a cage and a big safe. We need a crane and a winch to move.
I'm going to start stumping over to the window and just throwing open the curtains so we can see what the hell we're doing.
Good move.
Sod this.
All right, so
whip back
as you whip the curtains back, there are various roars and growls from everywhere in the room. It seems that each one of these cages has something different in it. And
pipe down.
I like that.
Looking around, you actually see that at least one of them has a giraffe in it. So maybe not all of them are magical or weird. Maybe some of them are just kind of odd, different exotic animals. You're not really sure. You haven't actually taken a look around.
That cage?
I mean, I don't know anything about giraffes, so maybe it's magic.
This room is pretty high. It looks like there's no actual ceiling. It's just the rafters and then the bottom of the roof. So this giraffe is kind of leaning a little bit towards the center of the room and kind of like looking around under the peak of the roof.
I don't know how we're going to move that.
Wow.
I mean,
How did we get them in here?
How do you fit that in a box?
how
That
do
is a
you
good
get down
question.
the stairs?
Let's ask the guy who did it. And I just ask literally all of those questions down the stairs to the old man, in one after another. Don't even wait for him to answer.
It's a it's a good collection. There's the crane and the large doors.
All right.
Okay, this might be a dead end trying to get information out of this guy. I feel like we should get him out of the way because I feel like he's gonna fall over at the slightest breeze, and that's gonna be really bad for our rep if we accidentally like break this guy's legs or hip or something. So does someone want to like tend to him and get him to relax before we start this situation? Get him like sit in a corner or maybe sit outside or something before, because this is going to get real dangerous.
I'm not good with old people.
I can go look after him, get him settled down. Hopefully there's a chair left somewhere.
I'll do it. You need to move boxes, and I don't really have anything else to do, so.
Okay.
All right.
Look after the old
Just
guy.
put the old man to bed. It'll be fine.
You're on person duty.
Just sit him down and come back, because you have boxes to move too. I'm not doing this by myself.
Get him some tea and put him to bed.
Mm-hmm. No more tears.
So do all of the cages have like coverings on them, or are they?
No, they don't have coverings on them. They're arranged almost like a set of stables with open tops and then wooden walls between them, and each one has sort of a cage door across the front.
Okay, boy. I regret asking him where the good stuff was.
I'm going to go over to the double doors because they're still closed, right? So we don't know what
They're still closed.
I want to open those if I can and take a look at what that whole system looks like.
Yeah, so you pull open these double doors and light streams in from the rear of the building, and you can see that hanging from a very sturdy cable is a large four-sided platform that looks like it's used for moving things up and down into the different floors of the house.
So it's outside?
Yeah,
it's like the doors are open outside?
Yeah, the doors swing inwards, and then immediately outside there's a kind of a crude elevator system that's attached to a large winch that's inside the room that you're in.
Okay. I don't think David knows much of what to do with that. He doesn't have a lot of experience with anything other than hammering and clericking.
Clericking.
Yeah.
Clerical work?
Exactly.
Wow.
I found a big hook. That's all I got.
Okay, so boy, I guess we could start by trying to move one of these cages, but boy, I would love to get these animals to calm down. They're not going to like what happens next. And I like pull out my lute and I'm trying to like play like a lullaby song to calm the, not like a magical one, just like a regular old. I'm very good at this. To sort of just like try and calm them all down because they were hissing and freaking out. So I'm gonna try and just get them to chill out.
Okay. Do I guess it'd be an animal handling check.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could help with that. I'm actually not bad at that.
Okay. Yeah.
Why don't you help sing my lullaby then?
Okay.
I don't know about the singing, but
while you start doing this, David starts going to the cages and just speaking soothingly and singing, and do the animal handling check and do it with advantage.
Oh, okay. Let me roll again then. Oh, dang! I rolled a 19 plus 3, 22.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. You kind of like work your way down the lines, and so there's 3 sets of cages. There's the cages across the front of the house. There's the cages along the two sides of the house, and you work your way along these three sides of this large room very slowly. It takes maybe 20 or 30 minutes to actually get all of them to calm down. And as you're walking up to them, David, you notice that each one contains a different, sometimes scary, sometimes not scary creature of varying descriptions. One of them actually has what looks like a manticore. It's got almost like a humanoid face, but a lion's body and all sorts of other crap going on back there. It's really uncomfortable to look at. He's got these huge spiky teeth. One of them appears to just have a gigantic fat python of some sort. It's like if you've never seen a fat snake before, but this thing's freaking fat.
So cute.
Oh no, adorable.
It looks like it's actually just been overfed somehow. Like you didn't know that was possible for a snake to get. It looks like a weird stubby worm almost.
That's adorable.
There's another. There's the cage that you originally saw with the sort of shifty black creature, which you now recognize as a displacer beast. And there are many other types of animals. There is a total of 30 different cages up here.
Good Lord.
Oh boy.
And each one contains a different type of animal or creature or monster. Some of them more dangerous than others. Most of them are just exotic animals like the giraffe. There's also a zebra. There's a large python. There's some sort of huge lizard that looks like it might be, I don't know, some sort of crocodile or something, and various other types of animals.
I hate this. This is awful. You're absolutely getting a tip for this.
That's what I tried to. Okay, now
It's more respectable after you do the work.
Okay, like I said, you got me there.
Yeah.
Is Vela, are you back up with us yet? Or are you still talking to the old man and like getting him tea and stuff?
I'm done. I'm just like, please, just, I'm like covering his mouth. Yeah, I just put like a bag over his head. And then,
Yeah. So
Face.
so
I want to ask Vela, can you just like talk to animals? You're a ranger, right? Like you probably know how to talk to animals or something, right? Can you talk to them and like tell them what's going to happen? You could do that, right?
no, well, I mean, it wasn't really my specialty. I mean, I hang out around animals, but they're not like friends or anything like that.
Okay, forget
it. Wait, didn't David say that he was good with animals?
I mean, I just know how to pet them.
Aw.
I have a pet.
It's like cats like me. This is a little different.
Good resume.
Durka, what do you think we should do about this?
I mean, so if they're in cages, are the cages like sort of like set into the floor, or do they look like if we say got a big hook and a crane winch, we could sort of crane them out of here just without having to move the animal out of the cage?
do an investigation check to sort of look at how these cages are put together.
Oh, I got a natural 20,
Yeah.
but I have a -1
Nice.
on investigation.
Yeah, so as you're looking around these cages, they initially seemed very, very solid, and really they are. They're well affixed to the different surfaces of the room. There's big chunky bolts that are affixed to the walls. But the more you look at them, the more you realize that they could be moved. They are not, even though they're attached with big bolts and stuff to the floor and the walls, they are built to be detached and moved from place to place. So you could, in theory, pop them off and slide them over to the elevator. It seems like that's probably how they got them up here in the first place.
Okay, well that's something that we could do, right? We could remove all these bolts and sort of slide them on out.
Let's push these
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Shove
All right.
them around.
Let's all do it together, I guess, because they look big enough that one of us is probably not going to be able to do it by themselves.
Let's start with one of the less murdery animals, like maybe the giraffe.
We're back, and we're going to bring things back in with a little bit of discussion about a little more game dev related stuff. Well, this is a question I haven't asked any of these groups yet, but I've been meaning to. What are some inspirations for you guys in what you do? Is there anything that kind of gets you going in that way?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet this time since I rambled last time. I really enjoy a lot of board games, and I particularly enjoy board games that allow the player to sort of like come away with interesting stories to tell people, which is why I love D&D so much. A lot of like you'll never guess what happened when kind of stories, or like, oh, this one time this crazy thing happened. So board games that allow those kinds of things to happen, like Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is just D&D without a DM, and any sort of games like that. That once I've played something like that, I'm really excited to either make my own or to sort of say, how can I make my games like allow players to tell weird, funny stories to their friends about this one weird time.
I guess I usually just make, or like most of the time I'm just like on Pinterest or Tumblr or whatever, and I like make aesthetic boards and stuff like that. So it's mostly just like reference stuff, but like sometimes I'm like really into a certain like look or aesthetic, and yeah, I mean that definitely inspires me to like, oh, I want to like make something with this feel or like atmosphere or something that I haven't been achieving in my work, and like I want to like bring more of this element into it.
It's kind of similar because visual art is visual art, so it's like a hodgepodge of reference, and you see an interesting thing on Twitter or something, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to like make that or something. And so I don't know, it jumps around a lot. It depends on the mood, but like some stuff that's stuck with me that I kind of like have an interest in, that's is like Orientalism art or Arabesque type patterning is like something I'm like super
Cool.
into. That's and then on the whole other side of the spectrum, it's like 60s mechanical design, not circuit boards, but like control instruments for like spacecraft and stuff like that, like very, very functional, purpose-built form like that is like super interesting, or just like designed or not designed design is like super fascinating, and like always kind of makes me want to like just dig into that and model something really intense.
There's a really cool 70s Twitter account called 70s Sci-Fi Art that
It's
just
really
like
good.
posts. Oh my god, it posts like
It's so
old
good.
like book covers and stuff, and it's just an incredible.
Yeah.
Wild thing though. If you don't follow it, if you're on Twitter, it's just at 70s Sci-Fi Art. It's so good.
Yeah,
I love that one.
that's a great source. There's so much good stuff. Pinterest is a gold mine for that stuff too. It's yeah, but it jumps around a lot. Everyone's got like an aesthetic I think they're like into at some point that they just kind of dive into and then forget about. So changes week to week to month.
Yeah, like Xavier and I have Ryan Beno. He's he's an artist at Insomnia as well, and like I just remember like speaking of like that retro like sci-fi kind of aesthetic, he likes to find like lots of pictures of like old Disney when they were doing like Space Mountain and stuff like that, or like all their like sci-fi themed stuff in the parks, and it's basically like like that retro sci-fi look, but in real life, and it looks really cool, and I'm really sad that obviously they had to modernize it. But like, yeah, like he just like sometimes he has like these huge threads of like all these photos, and I'm just like, oh man, where'd you find this? And yeah, it just looks really good. And yeah.
Speaking of that, actually, I don't want to ramble too much, but speaking of Ryan and his like Disney interest, like I know a lot of people are like really into Disney as a thing, and it's not me, but like something like he's kind of I've found interesting since he's talked about it a lot is like the design of fairs or spaces like that, like and it makes a lot of sense for environment artists or visual artists because like
so deliberate and has a function.
It's extremely deliberate, like sign posting and landmarks and drawing the viewer's eye and attention to direct them around in a purposeful way, which is exactly my job in a sense, or a lot of us. So same with design, it's exactly that, but it's like Disney is filled with like such an intense dedication to doing that. It's insane, and it's really fascinating if you dig into that.
It's very curated.
It's extremely curated.
And they want it to be so immersive, right?
It's really cool. You don't even know you're being directed to do a thing that someone designed you to do because maybe like, hey, the main area is like too busy, so they open offshoot lanes with areas of interest to draw people away. So maybe it's like midday and it's hot, so they open up more drink stalls farther away to draw people away from the congested area. And it's like
crazy.
It's fascinating. So like that stuff's really cool. If you there's I could send a link to Xavier. I found some good blogs and talking about that sort of design, and it's something the viewers would be interested in. There's a lot to find.
Yeah, so at work, I do I'm the only 3D artist in the studio. So anything that needs making in 3D, I have to do it. And sometimes I do the concepts for it as well, depending on how busy our concept artist is. So I would like to specialize more as a character artist, but right now I just have to do a bit of everything. What gets me excited to do art, I don't do art at home at all anymore. But what makes me think like maybe I would like to do art again is fashion shows, like New York
Cool.
Fashion Week,
I
and London
agree.
Fashion Week. I am so into designers like Alexander McQueen. The Victoria and Albert Museum in London did an Alexander McQueen exhibition a couple of years ago, and my mom literally bought me a membership for the museum so that I could go to that exhibition, and I went through it 5 times.
Fantastic.
I mean, it was partly because as a member I got to bring one guest through, so like I took my mom through, and I took my aunt through, I took my other aunt through, and I took my cousin through, but every time I was just blown away every time by how amazing the costumes were, because they're costumes, right?
Yeah.
High fashion isn't just clothing. It's a whole thing. It's a whole idea, and I was just absolutely entranced. It was amazing.
Like seeing in person, you know, I mean, there's so many more details that you probably missed like if you threw photographs and stuff like that. Like, I think another example is the Game of Thrones costumes, because like, you know, like people have taken like really close-up shots, and there's like storytelling in the designs and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, like symbolism and stuff that, I mean, obviously it's on the screen for like a second or whatever, and you're just like, I wish, like so many people are going to miss that.
Yeah.
It's that sort of density, though. Even if it's not visible, it gets felt in like through the entire project. You know, it's like you can't design something that everybody sees, but if you don't have details like that through the whole thread,
Feels empty.
Yeah, it'll show, even if it just is like a general empty feeling. You know, I guess so. Like having little details everywhere, I think, like just makes a more cohesive whole.
So you guys are currently helping Sylvian Vexler,
This old man.
Who's hopefully in bed right now if Vela did her job.
Yeah, hopefully.
Mothered.
You don't know. She was downstairs and she's not
That's
talking. So you guys are currently up on the 3rd floor, taking a look at all these animal cages. Each one seems to have a different type of exotic animal or creature in it. And the floor below you seems to have all sorts of different, possibly magical, certainly unique items lining the rooms down there. What would you like to do?
Well, I believe we left off in trying to plan out to figure out a way to get those cages down there. I think we saw they were like bolted to the floor. So if we release those, we might be able to drag them over or something.
Can I do a investigation or perception check to see if there's any sort of like automated like button or lever or switch that I can pull that will like undo everything at once? Or is it just going to be like a manual, like I pull out an Allen wrench and start going at it one by one? Because that doesn't sound like something I'd want to do.
Allen wrench.
Yeah, fantasy Allen wrench.
Yeah, do an investigation check.
Yeah, 12. Not great.
So looking around in this room, there's definitely the crane and winch and pulley system, but as far as you can tell, most of these bolts that are holding things to the floor and to the walls were put there quite a long time ago, and it doesn't seem that it's constructed so that they can actually move very easily. It seems like it's probably going to be something where they will just have to be manually undone. However, looking at the way that these things are constructed, these cages, you do start to notice that they're constructed in separate units, and the walls between them are actually 2 layers. And you can actually look between the 2 layers, and it becomes clear as you look at all of them that each cage is its own separate unit that once it's unhooked, the next one will be able to come off.
Okay, so we don't get to pick the animal we start with. All right, so which is the first animal then?
Well, so you have 3 walls which have animals across them. There's the south wall and the east and west walls. So along the south wall, in sort of the southeast corner, is where the spiral staircase is. Towards the back wall, you have the large safe. And then near the safe, you have the big door with the crane. Along the south wall, you have several different types of animals. There are 10 cages arranged across this wall. There's 10 cages on each wall, and it's a big, big room. It seems like the giraffe and the less threatening animals, the ones that are just animals, just like the one that has like a zebra and a big lizard and the python, they are all along the east wall. There are some other types of animals in there. That some of them, most of them look like animals that would be unusual for where you are, but not animals that you've never heard of. All of them seem to live in fairly dry climates, though. Along the west wall, there are several sort of bizarre, magical-looking creatures. Of many different descriptions. Most of them, though, seem to be large insects, like very large. Like there is actually a giant spider in one that is about 3 feet tall. That's it kind of skitters around. You can see that it's actually sealed in at the top. It has bars across the top, and its entire cage is covered in webs, almost like a funnel web spider. In another cage, there's a couple of giant praying mantises that are about 6 feet tall.
Dear.
It's
6 feet tall.
they're very, very large.
That ain't right.
Along the south wall, that's where you found the displacer beast, the manticore, and several other more like monstrous creatures.
This is kind of just like a pick which cage we want to break open the least when we move it wrong.
Yeah, I take out my lute and I do like a big old strum, and I say, "All right, here's I'm gonna pitch you all a plan. How about we go downstairs and screw with magical stuff, because that seems more fun than moving giant cages full of angry monsters. Because we got to move that stuff too. So maybe we just go downstairs and look at a weird mirror and weird like test tubes full of weird liquids, because that feels like we can move those easier, and maybe we can work our way up to these gigantic praying mantises, which I don't want to get anywhere near. How does that sound?"
I vote aye for weird mirror.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, my only worry is that we'll have fucked around for the whole day, and then this Herculean task is left. But sure, yeah. Let's go check out other stuff first, because this is just a whole mess.
I don't even know how to begin with this. Is I guess my problem.
Yeah, I would have argued that we start with moving the animals out, because I think that's probably going to be the hardest thing that we do today. But then I saw that giant spider, and I was like, no. Let's leave that till later, or maybe
Dirk is in. All right.
Yeah. Let's go downstairs.
Let's get something done.
All right.
Yeah.
So going back down that spiral staircase, you find yourselves in a large room. Now, this room, which the spiral staircase is in, is one of 3 rooms along this side of the house, each one linked by an open doorway. And it seems it's sort of a mirror image on either side, with 3 rooms on each side, all with open doorways. This one contains a lot of interesting stuff, mostly clothing and things like boots and armor. Some of them look like they're just interesting historical pieces. There's at least one armored helmet that looks like it was made for someone who's incredibly rich, and just made for like a fancy parade or something. But there are others that, while they seem a little bit mundane at first, they are very clearly very finely made, and some of them have interesting designs embroidered on them, that type of thing.
Well, let's just start throwing shit in a box.
All right.
I mean, yeah, clothes are easy to move, right? You just put them in a box and you move them, and they don't bite or sting you or try to eat you.
You just kind of shove it in and
I mean, probably do it kind of
nail the top on.
Perfect. All right. I go grab a box and I set it on the floor, like the biggest box that I can carry by myself from the empty pile of boxes. And I say, all right, let's get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start filling this box.
Montage.
Can I do a perception check to see if there's anything that I would find super fancy that like a bard hat or like something sort
What
of.
is a bard hat?
Yeah, I don't know, like something very like fanciful, but not like armor. I'm looking for something
like a fedora.
Yeah, something something fancy that you would wear to a concert or something as a performer. Something that I, as Tiesto, would be excited to.
You're as Tiesto, yeah. Actually, so do an investigation check in this room. There's actually a large rack that has several different folded items of clothing on it. It goes all the way to the ceiling, and the ceiling is a good 12 feet tall in this room.
Yeah, I only rolled an 8.
So looking through, just kind of giving a cursory glance, this is this rack you're looking at is
There's only fedoras.
no, that's a different rack right next to it.
Oh, my bad.
So looking at this very tall rack, it's split into 3 side-by-side cubbies, and each cubby is only about maybe 6 inches high, and each one contains a folded garment of some sort. Some of them are pants, some of them are shirts, some of them are cloaks. In general, though, most of them are very, very well made. At least one of them has really fancy fucking gold embroidery, and when you pull it down, it's actually it's actually a dress. It's a very, very finely made dress with gold embroidery. It looked pretty flashy, but I mean, I'm not sure what your clothing stylings are, but I don't know if Tiesto would want to wear a dress.
I sort of hold it up to myself and I think for a real long second, and I go, nah. But then I fold it up and then I put it in the box.
All right. Yeah, that's the only really fancy one that you find. There are other finely made things. There are several cloaks that look like they're made of incredibly nice material, but they're not flashy. They're more utilitarian. So you just want to start packing things and putting it in the box?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you work your way through this stack of clothing, you do notice that occasionally when you pull one off the shelf, one of them sort of glitters a little more than you were expecting, even though it's a very matte material. And then as it stops moving, it just stops glittering. It almost looks like glitter was sprinkled on it, but then once you actually like look directly at it, it just doesn't really do anything. Another one slightly makes your fingers tingle when you put it in the box as you're holding it. And things like that sort of happen as you're unloading this entire thing. What are the rest of you guys doing?
I could either be helping with that, but I don't think he needs it. So I'm going to wander over to the glass vials and like hold up, inspect them for a second and figure out. I don't really know how to pack those, but I want to take a look.
You old bubble wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, where's the tape and bubble wrap?
Do an investigation check.
Okay.
Or actually, no, just do a perception check, really, because you're just kind of like looking at the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not like actively seeking.
Yeah.
That's good because I have a better perception than investigation. That would be a 4.
A 4.
That's a yeah.
I mean, there's an entire rack that covers an entire corner of this room, and it goes all the way to the ceiling. And each one of these potions seems to be completely unique. It's a little overwhelming to look at because each of the potions is in its own individualized container. They're not just like small glass vials. Each one seems like it's very clearly been made for that specific thing. Some of them seem to be swirling around inside their containers. Some of them seem to be slightly glowing. They are in all colors of the rainbow, and just staring at this corner it's actually a little bit uncomfortable because it's like dazzling to your eyes with how many of these small little vials there are that are doing so many different things.
I guess my impression of what I do with that perception is just like hold one up, just like, oh, weird.
The one that the one that you happen to hold up, it's sort of a transparent, slightly viscous looking liquid, almost not as thick as soap, more like a glycerin, and it looks like there is a fingernail just kind of floating in there. It looks kind of gross.
Is this his fingernail collection? Exotic fingernails?
This specific fingernail, it has kind of a blue tint to it.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, of course.
Like a frost giant thing.
Maybe it is parts of magical animals. I mean, he clearly has an interest.
This guy's doing some like whack stuff, though. We can all agree, right? Like this guy has a wide, varied group of interests that go from fancy dresses on one end to caging monsters on the other end, and like weird cracked crystal balls and fluids in the middle somewhere.
Right. So just your typical eccentric billionaire.
Yeah, basically.
Can you imagine this dude's like sale table at the swap meet, just like weird fingernails and glass jars and mirrors that
I have
you
a
can't
feeling
see
he wouldn't
yourself
sell
in?
any of this stuff.
Well, can I do an investigation check to see if there's anything dangerous in the room? Because now I know that there were dangerous things upstairs and he didn't tell us about it. So,
Yeah.
We know the answer.
Yeah, do an investigation check as you kind of work your way through all 6 of these chambers.
okay. Oh, wow. Fuck. Nat 1. Never mind. Investigation's
looks
my
fine.
best thing. I'm so
I
sad.
mean, there's nothing that strikes you as being necessarily dangerous on its own. There is actually an extensive weapon rack, but none of them are like flying around trying to murder you.
Very perceptive.
Yeah. What does Durka want to be doing while these 3 are doing their stuff?
I'm gonna go and take a look at that weirdy mirror.
Okay. So going and looking in the mirror, it's a very finely crafted mirror with a gold rim. It's sort of an oval egg type shape. And looking in it, it seems that all of the items in this room, and this room is sort of a weird eclectic mix of things. There are lots of pieces of small furniture and desks and such. And like in one corner, there's actually a kind of a writing desk with just like a stool sitting on top of it, which is kind of odd. But this is on the eastern side of the building in the middle room, and hanging on the wall is where the mirror is. And looking in this mirror, you can't see a reflection of yourself. You can't see a reflection of any of the stuff in the room. The floor is bare. There's no carpet. And the longer you watch, the more you see sort of almost ghostly, shadowy silhouettes moving around. I want you to do a perception check.
Okay. What's my perception? I got 14.
So you hear your friends moving around and doing things in the other rooms, but something about this mirror just kind of catches your attention. And the more you look at it, the more you realize there is a shape in the middle of the room, a sort of ghostly, shadowy shape sitting in the middle of the room. It looks like a small child.
Oh no, I don't like this at all.
It looks like a child who is, playing with a toy or something, just sitting there in the middle of the room behind where you are currently standing. Looking back there's just a simple carpet laying down there. Most of the stuff in this room is kind of pushed up against the walls. And the longer you look, the more you start to notice that the same things keep happening. The same people start walking through. And there's at least 2 sort of adult type size shapes that walk through the room in the same sequence each time. And it takes about 3 or 4 minutes for the sequence to fully complete, because they walk through the room, they do some other things, and the entire time the small child seems to be sitting on the floor playing with something. You kind of gather that this might be almost like a recording of some sort. You're not certain. But aside from that, you can't really tell exactly what's going on.
Okay. Sylvian, when he was showing off this mirror, said that it had so many good memories. And he said, like, they were in it?
Yeah, he definitely said it's filled with memories.
So maybe he sort of like put some memories in it. Maybe it's like a pensive.
Oh,
Could
yeah.
Something like that. The kids, can I see, like, are they human child?
It's tough to see. It's very faded.
Like
it's almost
shadow.
it's almost like looking at a very faded shadow. It's just a slight silhouette. You can't get any sort of detail out of it. There are no faces or clothing. It's just sort of a shape.
That's weird.
I finish. Well, I guess I'll ask the dungeon master. I would like to be done with like this cubby hole of things, and the box is somewhat full. And I sort of walk over. I notice Durka sort of staring intently at this mirror, and I walk over to it, and I'd like to do like a history or arcana check or something to see if I like recognize the mirror as some sort of like historical artifact or as a thing that maybe has been written about in a book somewhere, to see if it's known by any name or anything.
I would say do a history check. Yeah.
Okay. 17.
As far as you know, you've never heard of this mirror. You've heard of various different types of spells before in the past. Being a bard, you're familiar with various different types of arcane magic and such. This isn't anything you're specifically familiar with. It definitely appears to be magical, but it's not something that is, say, part of your history. You can't really identify it. It seems... it almost seems like it's a unique item. You're not sure.
I totally just touch it. I just reach out and touch it without hesitating.
Okay. Where do you want to touch it?
Just right on the, I guess, the child. Just to see if it's some sort of like to see if it's physically solid, if it's actually physically there, like right on the mirror part.
So as soon as you touch the surface of the mirror, the child and one of the adults that was just walking through as you were touching it, they disappear, and it's replaced with sort of mingling shapes, all also shadowy. This one is slightly less faded, though they're all still silhouettes. You do get the impression almost of lighting on these shapes, just the barest hint that there is some light coming from above, and maybe from like a chandelier or something above, and being cast onto these shapes.
Is the mirror showing the room we're in, just with not the same amount of stuff in it?
It is showing the room you're in, except empty.
Interesting.
Is that a different memory?
Yeah. I'm going to look around above and see if there's a chandelier above the room that we're in right now.
There is a chandelier.
I turn to Dirk and I say, this might be really dumb, but what if we lit that chandelier?
The chandelier is actually already lit. It has some small...
That's why it's dumb.
It has some small glowing crystals in it that are set at each of the facets, really.
For DM, for Arcana check, does it tell you what it is or just what kind of magic or something?
It would be whether you're familiar with the type of magic that something is, if it is magical, like whether you'd be able to just know that offhand. You'd also, if you got, say, a high Arcana check on something, you might be familiar with a certain spell that is written on something like that.
Well, I might as well, since everyone's looking at this mirror now, and I don't want to be the only one packing. I'm gonna go do an Arcana check on this thing.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
10.
You don't know what type of magic it is. It's clearly magical, but you don't know what type of magic.
I call out to David and ask him to come over and see if he can use his clerical ways to maybe know if there's anything going on with the magic on this mirror, because I don't know.
I'll stump over and just give it like a good hairy eyeball, just like lean in real close. I could do Arcana, but I don't know shit about like magic. So I could maybe see if it's religious in some way. Maybe I don't know if that's useful, but hey,
do it.
Why not, right?
So yeah, that'd be a religion check.
Yes. Ooh, I'm rolling terrible today. That's a 5.
Doesn't seem to be there's no imagery of any sort of deities around the edge, and actually looking around the room, it doesn't seem that there's any sort of religious imagery in this room at all. It doesn't seem that Sylvian is a very religious man.
I didn't think so. I just lean in real hard, give it a good 10 seconds, just
as
I don't like it.
Yeah, as you lean in and look, you can see that these various shapes are moving around. It looks almost like sort of a party or something. Lots of people moving around at a party, and just standing there talking to each other, holding drinks, that type of thing.
Looks more fun than what we're doing.
So As you guys are looking at this mirror, you hear some shuffling coming from the hallway, and
jeez.
a very old man with a long white beard, now dressed in a nightshirt with a long pointed cap that kind of dangles down with a little pom pom on the end, sort of comes in, and he's like,
Oh, yes, that's my mirror. Oh, it has so many good memories in it. Did you see some of them? Oh, most of them are from my childhood.
And he kind of looks over, and he walks over to it, and he puts his hand out, and he touches the surface, and another memory comes up, and you can actually see very clearly now, just the image of two people, a small child and a woman in a rocking chair. There's no rocking chair though. It's just the woman sitting there rocking back and forth, almost as if she's just floating in the air. And there's a small child sitting on her lap, and Sylvian smiles, and he looks around at you and he says,
That's me when I was just a small boy. Oh, it's been a very long time. So how's the packing going?
Really well. As you can see, I have packed a lot of clothes, and I sort of mentioned to the box filled with clothes. Look how it's going really well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let me know when you're done. I'm going to go fix myself some tea downstairs.
You do that. You go and relax, and we'll get the work done, and you don't trouble yourself at all, okay?
All right, thank you. You're such kind young people. Oh, I am always hearing about how old children these days, young folks, but, I've never believed it. Well, I need my tea. Oh,
and he kind of hobbles off.
Wow.
All right, so the mirror is probably the least sinister thing in this room, then.
For the moment.
Yeah.
Nice.
Creepy shadow child memories.
I'm gonna touch the mirror and kind of keep touching it, like as if I was trying to scroll back to see if how many memories are in this thing before it loops back again on the first thing that we saw, and if anything jumps out as not just a fond childhood memory, if anything's weird or
Oh, you're just going
scary or
through this
something.
guy's camera roll.
Hey, listen, he left it here.
Come on, man. You never keep swiping through a camera.
I'm doing it.
Cool.
So
You're
yeah,
gonna see some weird shit.
as you keep tapping through, it does indeed just keep scrolling through, and it seems there are 16 different memories stored in this. Most of them are kind of faded, and the the content of them varies. At least one is of a man standing in this room holding a bullwhip, and he's sort of in a ready position, almost Indiana Jones like, and it's almost like watching a silent film. No sound comes from it, but it's a very clear memory. In full color, there's a guy standing there in the bare room, and he rolls across the room towards the back of the room, according to where you guys are standing, and across the camera, for lack of a better term, jumps the Displacer Beast, the dark black, almost jaguar-like animal, and it runs around the room back towards him, and he cracks his whip, and then it actually jumps onto his chest and clamps its jaws down on his throat, and then they start to roll over on the floor, and you can see that he has a huge smile on his face. He's clearly just playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Aww.
He was pretty hardcore when he wasn't an ancient old man.
I assume that we can recognize that this is Sylvian in his young. Okay.
Yeah, it is very clearly him. Very, very similar face. Just now he's much more wrinkled and aged. He's actually got sort of a like an Errol Flynn's mustache and goatee going there. It's kind of pointed on the end. He's got the same big nose, and even back then, it seems that he was bald.
Okay. It seems to me that this guy's collection is all of the things that he's done in his life, and like he was
Maybe.
like us. Oh my God, am I going to be old like that one day? And this is his like museum of like adventuring memories and all of his like loot that he like accumulated over the years. And this is his like this is his like shrine to his adventures over the years. So maybe we should be careful with some of the stuff, because I don't think he even knows what some of it does.
Sounds like a pretty good observation,
I mean,
actually.
that's sensible that we should be careful with his
Tried to investigate.
stuff.
And I say that, and I'm like really bummed out now. Like I've really made myself depressed thinking about looking like an old dude.
That's your takeaway from all of this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, oh,
I'm gonna be old and wrinkly and not as handsome one day.
Look on the bright side, Tiesto. You'll probably die way earlier than that.
I clap David on the shoulder and I say, "Thank you. That means a lot." So let's like, I don't know, what should we do? Where should we go from here?
I mean, we should start packing the stuff away, right? We should find
Yeah.
a box and wrap the mirror up and put it in the box so we
Suppose
can move
so.
it out of here.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. So over the next couple hours, you guys managed to get most of the smaller items packed into small boxes and crates. There are still some pieces of furniture in this one room. Some pieces of furniture that are kind of large. There's there's like a secretary that opens up and has like a writing desk on it and stuff. It kind of unfolds in a very ornate fashion. But those seem to be the largest items. There's the aside from those, it seems to be mostly smaller things that you are packing up, and you pack them in the straw in the crates and such, and get them ready to move down. The last thing, some of the last things that you end up packing ended up being, just by chance, those racks of vials and potions and such, along with some of the clothing. You guys do notice as you're packing up that one of the items of clothing in the room with the spiral staircase is actually a very large, wide belt with an iron clasp at the front that looks like it's a very angular face that has a short beard and some sort of helmet or hat on the top, and it's just like that's the belt buckle. It's like a flat shape that has the shape's recessed in, and as you pick it up, it feels very, very heavy. Like it's a leather belt, but it feels much heavier than it should.
That's weird. What is it? Some kind of weight training belt? Is it a magic heavy belt?
I look at the face on there and I turn to David. I'm like, is this like a dwarf thing? Do you recognize this? The dwarf? Is this like a dwarf face on this belt? Is this like a dwarf god? Do you know anything about this? You know related stuff.
Yeah, let me do a roll for that, but I think
Just do a general
Yeah.
intelligence check.
okay. As I say, strangest looking dwarf thing I've ever seen. If so, let's see. Ooh, a 7. Wow, higher than normal.
Well, you definitely know that it's not dwarven something, but you're not sure what exactly it is.
But I don't like it.
Can I do a religion check?
Sorry? A religion
Can I do
check?
a religion check?
Yeah, you certainly
Just in
can.
case some sort of, I mean, there was nothing religious in the other room, but you never know. Oh, that's a nat 20. I am rolling well.
You know for a fact that it is not in any way religious.
Yeah, great use of 20.
A man of
Just like
science, Sylvian is.
It's just like a cool belt.
Yeah. All right.
I immediately put the belt on and go, "Hey guys, who am I? Who am I?" And I do a Sylvian. "Oh, hello, I'm an old man." I totally just throw it on without thinking.
So as you put this belt on,
boy.
you immediately feel as if your body is just somehow infused with some kind of power. You're not sure
It's a
exactly.
virility belt.
You're not really sure exactly what, but you start like testing your movements, and everything just goes like a little harder and a little faster whenever you move. And it takes you a while to actually get used to this feeling. Do you want to take 20 or 30 minutes and try to figure out exactly how to work with this thing?
No, I've convinced myself that I'm already great at it, and I just put it on and continue like moving boxes and stuff.
Okay,
and like
so-
I probably look really stupid, and I just pretending I look fine. I'm not having a trouble with it at all.
Yeah, so as you're trying to just walk and move boxes and stuff, the first step that you try to take actually launches your foot out from under you, and you fall flat on your back. Or at least you are about to do a dexterity saving throw to try and stop yourself from actually falling on your back.
Yeah. Oh, 10. 4 plus 6.
That's so 16 total, or
10 total.
Oh, 10
4 plus
total.
6.
Okay.
6
yeah.
save.
So your foot launches out from under you. You're almost able to catch yourself, but then you like grab onto one of the racks on the wall, and you kind of fall sideways and then fall flat onto your side, and you're like, and you notice that as you fell, you actually you crushed a part of the rack in your hand and brought it down with you. There's just as you open your hand faster than you meant to, there are just like little bits of wood from the crushed bit of rack in your hand. You're not.
Wow.
It's like everything, every single movement, even blinking your eyes, just goes harder and faster than you're used to.
I lay on the ground and I go, guys, I don't want to get old. I don't want to be old.
Hey, Tiesto, how about we put you in the Displacer Beast cage and you two can have it go around?
I don't want to get old, and I try like fumbling with the belt buckle to try and take it off again.
So as you're taking this thing off, you open it up and try to just take it off, but it just goes flying because you accidentally pulled too hard. It goes flying across the room, and your body seems to be returned back to its original, slightly mushy state.
Ta-da!
That seems like a pretty nifty belt.
Yeah. Don't put it on.
Why not? It seems like it could be really handy for like moving all these heavy boxes.
That's true.
Oh.
You're the half orc beefcake. Why don't you? Maybe you can handle this better than I can. Yeah, you can probably handle this better than I can as a very talented musician and not a muscly person. Why don't you try it?
Playing your lute with that on, just crush it in your hands.
I would never. Not this
Yeah.
lute.
I've got the muscle skills. So yeah, okay, I'm going to try putting on the belt, and I'm going to be a little more careful, a little more conscientious, try and sort of get used to wearing it.
All right.
I mean, it'll be really handy, I think.
Do you want to take some time to actually see if you can get used to this over the next 20 or 30
Yeah,
minutes?
I'm going to take the
Attune?
Okay, yeah. So you attune to this belt, and your strength goes up to 29.
What?
Holy
Oh,
shit!
shit.
Wow.
Sweet.
Can I see that belt again for a sec?
No.
You find that you have an incredible spring in your step now after this weird adjustment period, and yes, that is a belt of storm giant strength.
Oh.
Nice.
Wonder if we could see Silvio possibly be wearing that in those memories. Have a feeling.
No. If
Ah,
he wore it now, he would probably like be
kill
less
himself
useful.
by accident.
Or maybe that. I mean, his bones are probably like really brittle now. If he's
Yeah.
Just quick question: if my strength is 29, what does that make my strength modifier?
Big.
Lots.
A lot.
Jumpers.
A lot.
It's -10 divided by 2, right?
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah. So oh my god, that's gonna be
So 8?
Something
I
like
think it's
that.
gonna be a plus
No.
8. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, 8. Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty
intense.
intense.
Okay, I could definitely wrestle some of those critters. At some point.
Anytime
it's gonna be plus 9 actually.
Nice.
anytime
Wow.
Durka gets near me, I just kind of like back away, just instinctively, just like a half step, without even realizing it. Just like, please don't get that close to me.
I'm like, this is amazing. Fight.
All right. So, what would you guys like to do from here? You have basically everything aside from the pieces of furniture in the one room that are all packed up, and then you have the animals upstairs.
I guess the choice is clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
safe,
Wanted to
guys.
Durka wrestle a bear.
We
Or a
need to see what's in
giraffe.
this.
I could totally do that now. I could wrestle a giraffe. Hell yeah, what's a giraffe got going for it? Long neck? Whatever. Long legs?
Just
Who
a
needs
long
them?
boy.
Just tie it into a
Yeah.
pretzel.
Durka, would you like to head upstairs and see if you can use that belt to move animals / a valuable safe?
Yes, I could
I
definitely
like
do that.
do like an eyebrow waggle.
Overemphasize on the word safe.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
so yeah,
so-
you all go back upstairs, and do you want to start undoing all those bolts and stuff and trying to get the animals out?
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you get up there, and there's unfortunately no wrench on hand to undo these bolts, though. After a bit of thinking and looking around, you realize that you are incredibly strong, and you can just kind of twist them out with your bare hands.
Who needs a wrench when you have this much strength?
Durka is the wrench.
Yes. So yeah, and you which row of cages do you want to start with?
So I'm going to be sensible and start with the less dangerous animals, like the giraffe and the zebra and stuff. I'm going to work my way up to the terrifying things.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you pull them out and you start sliding them across the floor towards the elevator system pulley thingy at the back of the building. And looking out, you can see that there's just an alleyway back there that you can lower things down to.
Okay, cool.
I guess someone should probably figure out how to operate that since she can easily move things.
Yeah.
Okay.
How easy is actually moving these cages? Am I just sort of sliding them around?
Well, do a strength check for me.
Okay. That's just roll d20 and add my strength modifier.
Yep.
That is 25.
You come to the end of this row of cages, which you have just unbolted from the wall and floor, and you can see that inside there is what looks like some sort of bizarre tiger wolf animal thing. It looks like a wolf with tiger stripes. And you pull on the cage, and there is the creaking of wood and metal, and it just pulls towards you very easily. It just kind of like pops off, and you're like, "Oh God, I'm strong." Yes.
Nice.
And you manage to actually just one-handed push it on over to where the big double doors are.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. Someone figure out that whole pulley thing or whatever. I can do all the pushing.
I'll give it a look.
investigate.
Yeah, we can do it together.
You two together can do that. I'm gonna play a song.
Motivational song.
I play a jaunty song.
All right.
Actually, I will. What I'll do while we begin this is use bardic inspiration on Durka with using my incredible guitar skills. I give you a D8, and anytime in the next 10 minutes you need to roll a die, you can add the D8 number to it.
Cool.
So I'm gonna sing a working tune.
Is it Eye of the Tiger?
It's gonna be
Yes, montage.
yeah, okay, sure. All right. Yeah, that was the request. I asked for requests, and that was the request I got. So I was like, oh, I know that one. And I sing the fantasy version of that on the lute. And so Durka, if in the next 10 minutes game time you need to roll a die for any reason and you want to use an additional D8, you can do that.
Cool.
Well, you actually got to sing it though.
I'm not gonna do that. Because I'm not going to sing the 6-minute song that is.
Oh, dude, you're role playing a bard. You gotta be down to sing.
Next time.
All right. So yeah, over the next few minutes, you drag all these cages over to the general location of the elevator and such. Who was operating the pulleys and whatnot?
Oh, I went to do an investigation on how to operate the thing, so
Sure,
I got
yeah.
I got an 18.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty simple system. It's just a couple of wheels that kind of ratchet into place, and you're able to, pull some levers and ropes, and you eventually figure it out. It's pretty simple to operate. The hardest part is going to be like actually pulling the thing back up, because it's pretty easy to let it down. There's a big flywheel that lets things go down at a very controlled pace. And yeah, you're able to get these big cages onto the elevator in groups of 2, and go on down to the alley, push them off, and come back up pretty easily.
Nice.
Cool.
Teamwork.
So what do Tiesto and David want to be doing during this time, aside from playing a jaunty tune?
I feel profoundly useless because I don't think any of my skills help here. So I'm kind of just leaning against the cage with like a bad expression on my face because I don't think I can help yet right now.
I think, David, what would be really useful is if you went outside and like when the crane came down, you unhooked the cage and then sent it back up again, because it's probably hooked onto some sort of like ring, right? So we need someone on the floor to do that.
Not the worst idea. I have a shot of me trying to like reach up to the top of the cage and actually reach that. But yeah, that's
definitely not the reason I asked the dwarf to do it.
Of course, of course. That sounds fair. That's so I'll head back down. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. So over the next say hour or so, because there are some really heavy animals in here that take a lot of wrangling, and some of them are pretty aggressive. You do manage to get all of these things down into the alley behind Sylvian Vexler's house. And they're sitting there in the alley.
Oh,
We did it, guys.
We're done.
Yeah,
well done.
okay.
That's literally all we had to do.
They're out of the house.
There's just a
Now what?
manticore in the alley.
There is a manticore in the alley.
your hit song.
Is there anything else in the house to be moved? Have we moved? Is there furniture that still needs to go?
There's still the one room that has furniture. There was the same room that had the mirror, and there are all the crates and boxes that you guys packed up on that same floor, which are just kind of sitting there.
Oh no!
I guess we have to move those two.
Let's leave the mirror till last, because I feel like it's important to leave till last. I don't know why. Because it's like reflecting in on an empty room. You know what I mean?
Because it makes you sad, right?
It makes me sad. I'm gonna just start grabbing boxes and just sort of like wheeling them down the stairs and sort of like putting them outside. I very obviously am taking the smallest boxes I possibly can out of all of them.
The very smallest and lightest ones.
Yeah.
So when we get this shit outside, do we have like any carts? Do we know where we're taking them to, or are we literally just getting all the stuff out of the house and then the other movers are going to come back? What happens now?
You never asked, did you?
No, we didn't.
Not our job.
I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it sort of is.
I
Also,
just said get it out of the house.
That's true. The movers were very like afraid of. They were like superstitious, and I haven't seen anything to be superstitious about other than some scary animals and a mirror filled with memories. So I'm a little bit pensive that there's something that we're overlooking that is like gonna jump out and like attack me at some point. Like I'm feeling anxious, free floating anxiety right now about the fact that they ran away, and we haven't had that much issue. Once we got that belt, things kind of went pretty smoothly, and my bard sense is tingling.
Well, obviously the mistake that the other movers made was not finding the belt and not being awesome enough to look at a manticore and say, yeah, whatever, it's in a cage, let's just move that.
I guess you're right, and I keep moving boxes.
But if you are concerned, we could have a look around the rest of the house just in case we miss something, and I can come with you to make you feel safe because I'm super buff now and I can kill anyone.
Okay. I mean, it's not like I'm scared, but yeah, you should come with me.
Can I help you punch a ghost?
Yeah. I would like to see what's in the rooms that we haven't been in. Why don't we go look at those?
That's probably fair.
So down on the first floor, and actually Vela would be familiar with this since she put Sylvian to bed. you actually lead them down to Sylvian's bedroom, and in the bedroom there is a mattress on the floor with some bedding on it, with Sylvian snoring quite loudly, and there's no other furniture in there aside from the bed, and that's about it. But looking through the rest of these rooms, doesn't seem there's anything left. It's all been cleared out pretty well. There's still a bit of cleaning to do. It's kind of dusty, but aside from that, not much there.
See, nothing to be scared of.
I feel better. Yeah.
Good.
Well, let's move all the rest of the boxes out, and then we can pack that mirror up and then collect our pay.
Job done. Easy.
Yeah, that was an easy one, everyone. So I guess I'm just going to go back to moving whatever boxes remain, and if there are no boxes, then
should we be like,
no, let's move everything else out first, and then we could be like surprise, and he'll be really happy because it's done.
okay,
I
all
think.
right.
I mean,
Okay.
what kind of time of day is it now?
Well, you guys headed out in the morning, and by this point, it's probably around 2 p.m.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
We still got the rest of the
This
day.
is the easiest moving job I've ever done.
I mean, but we haven't really moved the stuff. We have taken it out of the house.
We need
Yes.
those guys to come back.
Are we supposed to take it to the other place, his new place?
Do we know where
Is
his
that
new
part
place
of our
is?
job?
You could ask
Well, I don't
him.
know where it is.
Well,
Yeah, maybe we should go talk to him.
Yeah.
wait,
Why don't
wait,
you
want to wake him up?
did
talk
the
to him?
movers earlier that we ran into leave their wagons and shit like
No,
that?
they
or-
bailed on them. I was
Yeah.
chasing after them.
Wow, what a dick.
Clearly, we just have to carry them through the streets with your magic belt.
Oh no! Why don't we ask Sylvian where he's going, and then we can sort of make a plan after that.
Okay.
Okay. Sure.
I-
Go wake him up.
Okay, let's do that.
boy.
We go into his room and gently, I do not let Dirk get anywhere near him with that belt on.
I'm not going to touch him. I
And
would break him.
Actually, no. You know what? I play a little wake up tune on my lute to wake him up.
Aw.
So, the very gentle, dulcet tones come through, and he blinks himself awake, and he's like,
Oh, what? Oh, that's pleasant.
and he sees a stranger standing in his room, and he's like,
Ah, don't kill me! Oh, no! Oh,
So many enemies.
I sort of I sort of squat down so he has sort of eye height with him, and I say, Sylvian Vexler, you hired us to move your house, move all your things, and we're almost done, but we need to know where you're going. Where are these things going? Where's the new place you're going? Because we don't know that yet, and all your movers left with all of the carts. So it would be helpful for us to know where you're moving to.
Oh, I think I have some papers right over here.
and he starts rolling over to try and get to his clearly to his side table, which is no longer there. And he's like,
Oh, I suppose it's missing. That's unfortunate. Did you move it already? Oh, thank you. I suppose I should get up. It's going to be morning soon. Oh my. Yes.
and he starts rolling out of bed and pulling his pants on and such.
Did we move a side table? Do we remember moving a side table?
I mean, we haven't moved anything out of this room, have we?
That's
No.
I don't remember moving anything out of this
You
room.
guys haven't been in here.
Maybe the
Um,
other movers took it.
Vela, when you were in here, do you remember seeing a side table?
There was not
Do
a
I?
side table down there. No, it was
Oh.
Okay.
it was as it appears. There's just a bed.
Oh my God.
Shit. Those guys are long gone. I don't know, unless someone just runs down the street, or we go back to the Adventurers Guild, really shamefaced and be like, "Hey, listen, do you know where he was going?" Okay, well, I don't have a solution. Why don't we just finish moving all this stuff out into the lawn, and then we'll figure it out afterwards?
Good start.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put off the difficult part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you guys go and start moving everything out of the rest of the upper stories of the house, you get it all back there into the alley behind the house, and start getting it in position to maybe be loaded onto a cart that you don't have yet. And I want everybody to do a perception check.
Oh.
Cool.
You're sort of inventorying everything, making sure everything's out there, that type of thing. Just making sure you have everything.
I got a 20.
21.
I got a 3.
19.
All right, so Durka, you're too busy just like actually moving things and doing your inventory and stuff to actually.
Flexing.
Yeah, you're flexing, being like impressing.
You have to get that belt back, you know.
Yeah, genuinely impressing yourself with your own gun show. The rest of you, however, notice that while all of the cages are there, one of them is empty.
Oh no.
It is, in fact, the one that had the huge spider in it.
Oh my god.
Oh.
And,
yes, everyone's favorite.
The bars are not bent. It's not broken. It's just the spider is just no longer there.
Wait, I know this one. It's invisible. I do this all the time. Sometimes you just make yourself invisible. It's not a big deal. And I grab like a stick and like poke the stick in the cage to like assuming it's gonna like poke a spider.
Yeah. So as you poke this stick that you found on the street into the spider's cage, you start ripping through some of the web, and that's about it.
Oh no!
It's not only invisible, but it's immune to sticks.
Can you do like some magic to deck magic to like make it not invisible? Because this invisible spider idea, I don't like it.
I mean,
like
boy.
I don't
I
think
like
exactly
being
that.
able to see the spider.
I think it's gone.
I have to admit, I don't think it's invisible. I think it's just gone.
You've been bamboozled.
Maybe it'll just stay gone. Maybe.
Yeah, you know what? It's fine. It's okay. It's it's no big deal. It's just one big spider out there.
It was like that when we
giant
moved
spider.
Durka, when you moved that cage over, do you remember there being a spider in it?
Do I?
You do.
Okay, so sometime
being
between
very afraid of it would make you pretty aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely there, being all spidery and horrible. And
Do I remember there being a spider when it got down to me?
Actually, speaking of you, David, I need you to do a dexterity saving throw.
Okay.
Oh
Well,
my god.
That's my least favorite saving.
at least it's still here. At least you didn't lose it.
I don't want to have to wrestle a spider.
I think I'm going to get to become good friends with this spider.
One thing they have really
With
good
my
contact.
5.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm very nimble.
Let me see here. Yeah, so as you're looking in this empty cage, you feel something wrap around you, sort of clawing at your clothing from behind, and you feel a piercing in the middle of your back, and then everything just goes gray like that. You're still in the same place, but everything is gray, and you can only see sort of transparent, shadowy versions of your friends. And
What?
wrapped around your chest, one over the other, are two long bluish claws attached to, legs going behind you.
What do
Cool.
we see?
That's bad.
The rest of you see your friend just up and disappear.
Oh,
He just
okay.
leaves out of
no,
existence.
Great.
It is an invisible spider, and it turns its victims invisible too.
Oh,
This
man.
is the worst.
So Matt, you find yourself seeing just shades of gray, and looking down, these dark bluish claws are wrapped around you. There's a piercing sensation in your back, and you hear a behind you as something is scrabbling along the ground, sort of pushing into you. Not only is everything sort of in shades of gray, but your friends are almost look like ghosts or shadows, shades. They're swirly. It's almost like when Frodo puts on the One Ring and everything's kind of gray like that. It's the same sort of deal. What do you want to do?
So the Shades of Grey thing is concerning. I think a little more concerning is the spider clamped onto my back currently. So I'm going to, for lack of a better word, freak out a little bit and try to pull the claws off.
Okay. I need you to do a strength check.
Once again, one of my best stats. It's not true. That would be 7. Wow, I'm on fire today.
Yeah, so these claws actually have sort of like barbs on them. They're the feet of this spider, and they're used for climbing on walls. And they're clamped onto you and holding onto your clothing. And you can actually feel the small spikes pressing into your skin underneath your armor. Meanwhile, back in the normal world, your friend has just disappeared.
We lost the spider and we lost David.
That's bad.
Oh,
I
dead,
assume
you
those two
guys.
are related. So where
got
was
one
he
job.
standing? Can I like see if I can sort of wave
Yeah,
my hand,
like,
sort of touch?
Can I do like an
where he
Arcana
was?
check or investigation?
Wave
Not
your
sure.
extremely strong arms wildly in the air.
Yes. Yes.
As you wave your extremely strong arms wildly in the air, they hit nothing. They almost hit your
Oh
friends.
god.
One of them bonks against one of the crates very briefly, but as far as you know, David is gone.
Oh
Oh
man,
god.
Wow.
That's
y'all,
bad.
we need a new cleric.
just write me off. I'm done. Just all right.
Oh, he's gone.
Go back to the guild, get a new one.
Yeah.
Can I do any kind of check? I don't know.
What do you want to do?
Arcana? I don't know.
What are you trying to
Perception?
find?
Yeah, what are you trying to figure out or
Like
find?
any
or see?
trace, I guess, of him, or like if there was something. I mean, obviously he disappeared, so it's probably like a magical thing. So that's why I was wondering, like, do I?
So you
do
want to
anything
you
specific?
said an Arcana check before. You were just trying to figure out like what sort of magic or whatever this might be.
Right, or if to confirm that there's something.
You know, I'd say just do a general intelligence check.
Okay. 8.
Yeah, you're not really sure. I mean, it clearly seems like the spider disappearing and your friend disappearing are pretty related, but you're not really sure how. Is there anything that you guys want to do at all?
I want to check the cage. I want to look sort of like, I was poking at it with a stick before, but I'd like to do a more thorough investigation of the cage. And I'm trying to remember back if the spider, like, it was big, but if there's any other like distinguishing marks, maybe that might be an animal handling thing to know if it's some sort of magical spider or some sort of phasing thing.
Do a history check.
All right, history.
As
Plus
you're looking
0
at
on
this
history.
thing, you're sort of trying to
natural
remember
20.
everything. Yeah.
Nice.
So two things kind of spring out to you. One, the spider that you saw in this cage, it was very dark, but you were able to see that it had this sort of speckled coloring all over it. It was a bright blue color with large sections of white. Its legs were white at the base, and then they fade into a dark blue. Something else you notice, and this is actually something that you noticed just looking at the cage. There was you didn't really think about it before, but there was a small plaque on the front of the cage right at the floor, and it looking at it now, it's made of clay, and it is now broken.
Son of a bitch. Way to go, strong orc, half orc. Way to go.
Hey,
It
no one
appears.
told me to look
Yeah.
out for clay, whatever the
Yeah,
hell.
it appears that this thing had something stamped into it, and you would recognize some of the symbols as being arcane symbols, and about half of it is just gone. It looks like it was hit somehow, and just half of it crumbled.
Oh, so it was some kind of like magical seal, and then we broke that. And then the
Oh,
was able to get it.
Nikes. Okay. Can we read the half that's not broken?
Yeah, do an Arcana check.
Oh, I'm not very good at this. Plus 0. Okay. 2. No, 1. Critical fail.
Good.
Yeah.
What is Arcana even?
Yeah,
You're never heard of that.
You're honestly not sure exactly what it is. You recognize some of the symbols, but it's just like I've never seen whatever this is before. They are specifically arcane symbols, however. Like it's not language; it's symbols that have power imbued in them.
Okay. Can I go inside and try to get something useful out of Sylvain?
Bring him out here.
Okay. Bring him out here and show what's been done.
Sure.
The crime scene.
So while you're doing this, Matt, back to you. This spider is latched onto you, and you can actually you now feel this this pulse of something throughout your back, and it's you know how when you have say like a fat lip or your finger is swollen or something, it feels hard and you can tell there's swelling there just from just feeling it. That's how it feels immediately around this bite where it's latched on your back. Let's see, I need you to do a Constitution saving throw.
Ooh, okay. That would be above 10, 13.
All right, so
amazing.
Yeah, so you take let me see here. 1 second. 16. So you're going to take 12 poison damage.
That's a lot.
And you're also going to take 4 piercing damage just from the bite itself.
Cool.
So that's a total of 16, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Xavier. That's much appreciated.
Yeah. And you, it is currently just like latching onto you, so you are currently considered grappled. If you would like, you can try to break out of that grapple.
I would like to try to break out of that grapple.
Okay, cool.
So I'd like to do something that's not being bitten by this fucking spider.
Do a strength or athletics check. Yeah, an athletics check.
Oh, athletics! Damn it! I was hoping for strength.
I mean, you could just. I mean, isn't athletics should be?
That'll be dex check, right? Acrobat? No, that's acrobatics. What would I check? I guess.
I believe that would be your athletics check, because that's going to be using your strength plus any proficiencies.
Okie dokie. Let's see. And I have a 14. Oh, I'm incrementally rolling higher each time.
All right. So as you feel this just pulse of awfulness going through your body, shooting through your veins, you can feel it burning in your veins. You just tear the arms of the spider off of you, and you stumble forwards. Now almost inside where one of your friends is standing. It's almost like there's this shadowy form is standing through your chest as you are kind of like stumbling forward.
Creepy.
But you are free of the spider's grasp, and as you are freed from the spider's grasp, the world starts to take on more color, and with that, the leg of your friend, who is currently through your chest as you're standing up, starts to feel more solid. And let's see here.
Oh boy,
this is gonna get messy.
I've seen how this goes. I've played that video game.
Jess, I need you to do a dexterity check.
Okay.
Oh no, it's just like the end of Quake.
That's a 6.
A 6.
Yep. 6.
Yeah, so you feel this odd sensation in your leg, and then there's a sort of sound, and your leg gets pushed out of the way, and you almost fall to the side. And Dave is standing there or laying on the ground right next to you, underneath where you were just standing, as you're stumbling off to the side.
I found him. Here.
Good work.
I'm just like moaning and.
Yeah. He looks hurt.
I'm gonna ask him what the heck happened.
I found the spider.
Oh, good.
It was in my back.
Oh, bad.
Yeah, that's bad.
So Vela, were you going to get Sylvian?
Yeah, and by this time, do I manage to bundle him out the door, or?
Yeah, you'd probably be coming out the door by this time with him, on your arm, and he's like,
Oh, what's going on? What's happening now? I'm sorry. I'm very confused.
Oh, wait. And then I guess I see that he's back, and I'm like, oh, well.
The spider's still invisible.
Oh, yeah. What's up with your spider?
What's up with your spider?
Yeah, what's up with your spider?
Oh my goodness, is Delilah out again? Oh dear. Oh, she's such a problem. Oh, here. Do you have there? Oh, you packed everything. Oh dear. Well,
let me see. And he pulls his small glasses out of his pocket and puts them on. He looks around. And he's like,
oh, you're big ones, aren't you? Did you happen to find an amulet as you were packing my things? It looked like a purple gem with legs, like a spider.
Do we remember?
Did I see that while I was packing things up?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I specifically want Tiesto to do a history check.
Oh no.
Okay.
Because you were kind of leading the charge there.
I only rolled a 3 on history, so I don't remember much about anything.
Yeah, you were more focused on just getting shit into boxes at that point.
Yeah.
So it's
I was checking out the quality of the fabrics, and I was very distracted.
We've all been there during the move.
Yeah.
the rest of you can also do history checks if you want, though at disadvantage.
Okay.
I feel like I might be a little overwhelmed at the moment.
Oh, I did really well. 21.
Yeah, so actually, in the western middle room, that was where a lot of these smaller trinkets and stuff were arranged in lots of drawers. You do happen to remember seeing a very large purple gem, very, very finely cut. And what caught your eye was that it wasn't just a gem; it was slightly glowing in the center, and it had 8 legs coming off it, sort of curled around like a spider, and it had 2 fangs at the top. You remember where it was packed. It was packed in one of the smaller boxes.
Okay. Well, I go get that.
All right. Yeah. So it takes a couple of minutes, and as you guys are sort of digging through rummaging and digging through the like hay packing stuff in the boxes, you would all hear a bit of like scrabbling, sort of like a above you. And looking up, you would see there is a bright blue and white spider stuck to the wall, staring down at you. And it just kind of goes.
I ask Sylvian what the arcane symbols that were like that when we found them. What were supposed to be on that clay tablet on the cage.
Oh, that was to keep her from going into the ethereal plane. She does that, you know. She's very smart.
And he kind of like reaches up and kind of scritches his fingers together, kind of like you would with a cat. And this spider actually starts to inch towards him down the wall, kind of crawling, and you can hear it kind of going.
Oh.
Can you get it back in the cage, please? Can you please get it back in the cage?
Oh,
we don't want to have to hurt it.
She doesn't like her cage, but I can try. Come here, Delilah. Do you have that amulet?
Do I?
Yeah, you would have found it by now.
Okay. All right. Here you go.
Here, yes, he takes it from you, and he he's like, okay, Delilah, here you go, and he actually presses on it with his thumb, and it makes a clicking noise, and Delilah just falls off the wall. Her legs curl up around her. She falls off the wall and goes thunk onto the ground.
That was very solid.
And he shuffles over and he's like, okay, Delilah, and he actually like scratches the belly like between where all the legs attach, and this kind of this creepy area where it's all like plates of exoskeleton mixed with soft bits that are supposed to move, and he like scratches with one finger and one of the legs starts like moving back and forth like a dog's leg. And he's like, okay, Delilah, time to get back into your cage. And he clicks it again, and she unfurls and is kind of like wobbly for a second, and then he just like boots her in the abdomen, and she like starts slowly walking, not skittering, just like slowly walking over to her cage.
All right, Delilah. Yes, that's good. Get in there. Oh, there you go.
And she, as she walks over to the cage, she just goes, disappears, and reappears inside the cage.
That's good.
Can you put the arcane symbols back on the thing, please, so this doesn't happen again?
So he kind of like looks around. And he's like,
I don't have another one of those.
Okay, well.
Now, at this point, you would all hear some noise coming from down the alley behind Sylvian, sort of looking in the opposite direction of where the cages and boxes are. And coming that way, you see some very finely dressed men on horseback with a cart being dragged behind some of their horses. And you can see that they're one of them is up at the head of this group. He's a very skinny man, also bald, very similar to his uncle, with the same family nose. This is Lord Dariano Vexler, someone who you would probably be familiar with in the town, even if you've never met them in person. He's one of the richer people in town, and he rides up on his huge white horse. He hops down and walks over to his uncle and says, Uncle Sylvian, I'm so glad that you are finally able to find some people to move all of your useless little trinkets. Now, come on. The men are waiting. They're going to pack up your thing. You've already got everything there? Oh, that's wonderful. Less work for my men. They'll be so happy. Now, you lot, you four, you're done here. Do be kind and fuck off.
Nice.
Wow.
Fuck off, he says.
Yes, fuck off, he says.
I grab everyone in a group and I'm like, okay, do we tell him about the spider or do we not tell him about the spider?
I think he'll like Delilah.
I think Spider is his problem now. He's clearly taking responsibility for all of this stuff now, so
agreed.
You can deal with it.
Totally agreed. And I turn around and say, and I bow really deeply, like melodramatically, and I go, "By your leave, sire," in a really like over the top voice. And then wait, I'm like,
well, it's good that some of the riffraff here have manners, even if the rest don't. Now, come, Uncle. We are leaving. We have to get you to the home now. Goodbye, riffraff.
Home?
Oh, that's a bummer.
I mean,
all his stuff going?
And with that, the men on horseback who accompanied Sylvian Vexler's little nephew, his shitty little nephew, to come and get the rest of his goods, pack everything onto the cart. They give you a knowing look, realizing that their master is an asshole, and you are free to go about your business for the rest of the day. It's only about 3 p.m. You still have the rest of the day ahead of you. It's a nice, chilly autumn afternoon, and making your way back to the Adventurers Guild, you find your payment waiting there for you at the guild treasurer's office.
Oh, thank God.
Hooray!
That was honestly the easiest house move I've ever done.
I think I've done
And you got
worse.
a belt out of it, didn't
Yeah,
you?
you didn't give that belt
She
back.
did not give that back.
So going
it's
forward,
fine. I don't think
going
you wanted
forward,
it back.
if you would like to play on Dungeons and Devs again, you will now have an absurdly high strength score.
Yes.
However,
No, I'm keeping this character.
however, be warned that that's also a very good plot hook.
Oh yeah.
So thank you guys.
Hooray.
Thank you guys for participating in this goofy little game. Thank you to whoever is listening, and I hope that you guys had a good time doing this weird, strange game of D&D with me.